Hello, welcome to the second video of this three-part series about helping you prepare to pursue a career in healthcare. In this video, I will go over the courses most commonly required or recommended for health profession programs admissions requirements and how to complete them. I will also cover information about grades and GPA that will assist you in developing and understanding your academic profile. First, let's take a look at the Common Core biological and physical sciences requirements that create the foundation for most health profession programs' prerequisites. You'll see that it requires biology with labs, 1 year of this, so that's 2 semesters or 3/4. If you were to take these classes at UCI, they would be Bio 93, Bio 94, and Bio 97 as the lecture courses, Bio 93L, Bio 94L, which are our freshman labs, Bio 100, which is a scientific writing course in preparation for upper division bio labs, and then one upper division bio lab. If you didn't take Bio 93L and 94L because you entered UCI before fall of 2003, you can take 3 upper division bio labs to complete that same requirement here. The next set of requirements are general or inorganic chemistry with labs. And this means 1 year of lecture with whatever labs it comes with. So in this case, it's 2 semesters or 3/4 of GChem. And at UCI, that equivalency is Chem 1A, B, and C for the lectures, Chem 1 LC and LD for the labs. Next, we have organic chemistry, which is also a 1 year requirement of lecture plus labs. So again, either 2 semesters or 3/4. If taken here at UCI, it would be Chem 51A, B with lab, and C with lab. And then that completes the chemistry series, both inorganic and organic. Another physical sciences requirement is physics with labs. Again, a full year. So again, 2 semesters or 3/4. Here at UCI, that would be one of two series, either Physics 3A, B in the lab, Physics 3C in the lab, or the Physics 7 series, which is comprised of Physics 7C LC, D LD, and E. Physics 3 is the series that bio majors typically take and that we would recommend for most students pursuing pre-health. The Physics 7 series tends to be a bit more calculus intensive and is a course series that's required for engineering and physical sciences majors. We're going to now go to biochemistry, which is either 1 semester or 1/4 typically. And here at UCI, that class is BioSci 98. Now you'll notice that it is a bio course, it's part of that core. But if you look at some other campuses, you may see biochemistry categorized under the chemistry department. And then to wrap up the core science requirements, we have math. So usually calculus and statistics. So it would either be 2/4 of single variable calculus here at UCI, which would be Math 2A or 5A, and Math 2B or 5B. And then it would be 1 semester or 1/4 of statistics at the school. So at UCI, that stats course is likely going to be Stat 7 or Stats 8. Stats 8 is the class that focuses on biostatistics, so pulls examples from life sciences, where Stat 7 is more general to broader categories of study. And I want to make a note here that you'll see that there is a little star by Bio 100. That star means that Bio 100 is a prerequisite for upper division bio labs in fall, winter, and spring quarters. You may talk to one of our advisors later and find out that in the summer you may be able to take bio labs without that Bio 100 course, but we'd want to talk to you before you plan to do that. As you may notice, the courses just discussed are requirements for biosci and some additional sciences majors. For this reason, many applicants to health professions programs come from science majors. However, health profession programs do not preference undergraduate majors and degrees when reviewing applicants. In fact, applicants who completed non-science majors often bring unique perspectives and skills to the programs they matriculate to. Next, I'd like to share with you some additional science courses you may see listed as recommended or required for health profession programs you are considering applying to. You can find each program's admissions requirements on their websites to determine if you need to take these or other courses to be eligible for each program. However, these are the most commonly looked for classes beyond the core that I just reviewed. So the first is human anatomy and often required with lab. So at UCI, we offer two options: Bio D170, which is a lecture course with a lab component. So if you took the class, it counts as an upper division bio elective, not a lab course, but for the purposes of many health profession schools who want to see some sort of anatomy lab, this will suffice. We also offer human anatomy, which is a lecture. This course is D136, which is taught only in the summer. And this class is lecture only, but for schools that don't necessarily require an anatomy lab, this could be a good option for you as well. One thing I'd like to note is that human anatomy is a rather intensive class. You'll see that it is 5 units, and the human anatomy lecture by itself is just 4 units. The other thing I want to point out here is in this title, this units and credit hours. Credit hours are often referenced in admissions requirements in place of number of terms, like number of semesters or number of quarters that are required. And so while this can seem confusing, really the credit hours are just another way of saying units. So for example, human anatomy with lab bio D170 is 5 credit hours. The next course often required or recommended by programs is human physiology with lab. And so one thing about UCI is that we tend not to teach our lecture courses in conjunction with the lab, so not at the same time. So if a program is requiring lecture plus lab for physiology, it would be the E109 lecture and E112 lab. And then you'll see there each of those two courses is 4 units. So that means it's 8 credit hours total. And this may become important to you if you're applying to a school that, say, asks for a certain number of credit hours of anatomy and physiology together. So for whatever classes you've taken, you would add up the units for those classes. Most often I've seen about 12 units or so, 9 to 12. And so taking, human physio with lab, the two classes for 8 units or credit hours, and one of the anatomy classes would suffice. Okay. Next, we have the microbiology class with lab. M122 is the microbiology lecture. M118L is the lab. And again, these courses can be taken separately, so you don't have to worry about taking on that course load all at once. Do note also that the microbiology lecture M122 is 4 units and the lab is 5 units. And next we have cell biology with lab. The cell biology lecture course is Bio D103. Lab course is Bio D111 lab. And you'll see each of those courses are 4 units each. And lastly, we have biochemistry, or rather advanced biochemistry. Some programs will ask for a second biochem course or possibly an upper division biochem course. If this is the case and our Bio 98, the lower division biochem, will not satisfy the requirements, you could take Bio M114 lecture, which is the advanced biochemistry lecture, or take the biochem lab, which is M114L. And then similar to microbio, your lecture for the advanced biochem is 4 units for lecture, 5 units for lab. When I do want to go back and note too, with D170 and D136, since these are both anatomy classes, only one of them can be taken for credit. So if you take D136, you can't take D170 later. If you take D170, you can't take D136 later. So that's just good to note, especially if you're still trying to decide whether or not you think you need the lab for anatomy and which course you'd rather take. To wrap up the information about course requirements for health profession programs, I want to highlight some non-STEM courses that are commonly desired of applicants. Some of these requirements can be completed at UCI, while others are only offered at other institutions. So here you'll see first public speaking, and it's usually one course or one term. UCI does teach an equivalency to public speaking. It is PharmSci 190. This class does have limited spaces though, so if you can take it at UCI, that's great. Otherwise, you could also look for a class at a community college or another university. Next on our list here is medical terminology. Again, just one course or term. UCI does not actually have a medical terminology class, so it's not applicable under UCI equivalencies. That is something you'd have to look for at another school. English composition and writing is pretty common to all of the health professions, and this means either 2 semesters of composition and writing or 3/4 if you're taking it at UCI. So if you are taking this here at UCI, your lower division writing plus upper division writing requirements should fulfill the year of English composition writing. So noted here, it's writing 50 and 60 or writing 45 and 60 or the humanities core series that covers lower division writing and then your upper division writing for your major. And that should cover the full year of composition. And the next, we have a couple of social science classes. Introductory psychology, one course or term, introductory sociology, one course or term. These courses give you a good foundation in just understanding kind of human behavior and actions and activities so that you can apply these to what you're learning in the STEM classes as you move forward and how the psychosocial issues may impact what you're doing in science and how that impacts health as well. So with Intro to Psych, you would be looking to take either Psych 7A or PSci, which is Psychological Sciences 9. And then for Introductory Sociology, that is just the Sociology 1 class. Okay. And now we're going to go over a plan. This one shows you the plan for a typical biosci major. And while this may not be your pathway, it provides a framework to show you how to spread out your sciences requirements, and it keeps courses in order according to the prerequisites and co-requisites that need to be satisfied. It's always a good idea to consult the web schedule of classes for prerequisite and enrollment restrictions information. And remember, I mentioned in the first video that we do have the um, enrollment updates on our BioSci Student Affairs website. That's where you would find updates on bio courses and if there are things like majors or repeat restrictions, and if so, when those will be lifted. Okay. Um, so the basic plan would be to start with Bio 93 and 93L in the fall and take Chem 1A. Again, Chem is a year-long series, so you would progress through the rest of the year, Chem 1B in winter, Chem 1C and the lab in spring. And then Chem is a little different. They offset their G-Chem labs. So the last general chemistry lab will be Chem 1 LD, which is actually taken in fall of the second year. Okay. For bio courses, in the first year, you continue into winter with Bio 94 and Bio 94L. And in the spring, you don't have a bio class that's required to take. So oftentimes our students will begin their calculus if they don't already have credit for it, just to kind of ease back into taking math since they won't have a bio course to balance with the chemistry and lab as well. And then again, we'll move into second year where I mentioned about the GChem lab. You'll take genetics Bio 97 and begin OChem, which with Chem 51A. Continue in winter with Bio 98 biochemistry, Chemistry 51B and its lab. And then in spring, Bio 99, Chem 51C, its lab, and then perhaps the Math 2B or 5B at that point. Just to spread out your workload a little bit, not to hopefully take on too much if calculus is a little heavier for you while you're also taking bio and chem. And then as you look into the third year, you'll see that we put in BioSci 100, which gets offered multiple times a year, but we try and ask our students to get it done by junior year, just so by senior year, they're eligible to take bio labs. And the last of the basic requirements listed here is the physics series. So I've chosen the physics 3 series and shown you how that's laid out as well. Okay. One important thing to note is that these bio courses, 93, 93L, 94, 94L, 97, 98, and 99 are only offered in the quarter shown in the plan. Otherwise, it's taught in summer session. Okay. And then all of the other chem courses that are shown are typically taught twice a year. So chemistry 1B, math 2A, and then also the organic chemistry courses. So you'll find those usually in at least 2 quarters out of the regular academic year and then in summer as well. So you may, as you move forward, if you're not a bio major, you may not always be able to get into these classes or they may not work in your schedule. If that's the case and you're unable to enroll in the courses at UCI in the quarters indicated in this plan, please, I encourage you take time, make an appointment, meet with a Dunlop School BioSci advisor for guidance on taking the classes in the future at UCI, just on a different timeline, or taking maybe some or all of these classes at another institution. So our advisors can help talk you through the situation and figure out maybe what would be the best way going forward for you. Okay, so now that we've talked about courses, I want to go over some notes about those courses and grades and calculations. So we've gone over the basic requirements, but I'll start with point one and talk about UC alternatives. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, if you're unable to get into the classes at UCI, it may be possible for you to take those requirements elsewhere. And I will say that most health profession program requirements can be completed at a community college or four-year institution or a combination of the two. Okay. For advanced placement credit for these prerequisite courses, AP exam credit may also be used to fulfill programs prerequisites, but that's up to the individual institution. And so that's something you probably want to check with them. So that's the last point there. It's that it's really important for you as a student and a good consumer to confirm the individual program's policies regarding community college coursework and AP credit. There are a few schools out there who will note that they don't allow prereqs to be completed at community college, or they may not allow the AP credit. Okay, again, most will. So we advise you from our office's standpoint, check out the schools that you're planning on applying to as it gets closer. And once you've determined what those requirements are for those schools, then you could look at maybe taking the classes that are needed into the next year. If you've already gotten credit for Intro to Chem, for example, you can't take that same class here at UCI, but you might be able to find it at another campus. Another important note on the courses is that technically for classes at UCI, a D minus is considered passing in that it gives you unit credit and grade credit for any course you take and earn a D minus or higher. But in order to progress to the next level of courses in chemistry, you must earn a minimum grade of C minus in that class in order to be able to move forward. This works out though because most health profession programs will require a minimum grade of C or better in the prerequisite courses for their program. So oftentimes, if it's a required STEM class, we'll talk to students about making a plan to repeat the course at some point in the future. Okay. And speaking of repeating courses, any course in which a grade of C minus or lower is earned in UCI can be repeated at UCI. Okay. And so for the first 4 courses or 16 units worth of repeated coursework that a student completes, the new grade they earn will replace the original grade in how UCI calculates GPA. If a student were to repeat 5 classes or more, the new and the original grades get calculated into the GPA. Okay, so the best in a sense forgiveness would be those first 4 repeats where the new grade completely replaces the original grade in your GPA calculation on your UCI transcript. That said, a lot of health profession programs will still calculate all grades earned. So they'll be able to note that maybe you didn't do well in the class before, you retook it, you did significantly better. And so that makes an impact for them as well. But they often will move to counting all of the grades earned for a class. So you don't get necessarily that bump of the replacement. Okay, and so as we were talking about courses and I mentioned I was going to let you know a little bit about GPAs. So for those of you who are not quite familiar with how GPA is calculated, let's start with some basics. So under terms to know, point value of grades. So every grade you earn is awarded a point value. Basically, an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3, C is 2, D is 1, and F is 0. Okay. For every plus and minus that you see on the grading, except for an A plus, they'll add or subtract 3/10 of a point from that base grade. So in the example below, a B is 3 points, so a B plus is 3.3. A B minus is a 2.7. Okay. And then the other important thing to note are what are grade points. So grade points are the calculation using the number of units the class is worth multiplied by the value of the grade. So when we say value of the grade, if a student takes a 4-unit class, they earn a B. So that's 3 point values. And then for a 4-unit class, that becomes a total of 12 grade points. Okay. And those are noted on your transcript as GPTS in the quarterly assessment of GPA. Then you'll see the grade units attempted. So it's spelled out completely at the bottom of your transcript, but in each quarter it is listed as ATTM on your UCI transcript. And these are important to know because how you calculate your GPA is to take those total grade points that you have added up and divide that by the total number of units you've attempted for a grade. And that's why it's important to know where to look on the transcript because there are unit totals there that will show things like pass, no pass. And that's not what you want to use for calculating your GPA. Okay. One thing I want to note too is that when you're taking classes on a semester system, I've found it's often easiest for students to make the conversion from semester point values to quarterly point values and then putting together the whole GPA if they're trying to calculate it. So if a class was taken on a semester system, one semester unit is equal to 1.5 quarter units. So if you took a 3-semester or 3-unit class during a semester, then it would come back to UCI as 4.5 units for the quarter. So those are all important things to know in terms of calculating. Again, it can seem a little confusing and our advisors are definitely available to help if you have questions about that. But at least I wanted to provide a little bit of a foundation so you understood how GPAs are calculated. And that way you can look at it on your transcript and have a better sense of what's there. You'll see if you look at your transcript, the far right hand column that has numbers in it, that's usually going to be your calculated grade points, okay, for each class. Okay, so why do we talk all about the grades? It's because there are different types of GPAs that schools will look for and ask for on your application, or they may ask to see if you know in general what it is. So there's the cumulative GPA, which is the GPA for all courses that you've taken at a college, whether it's cum GPA for UCI for just your UCI classes, or a cumulative GPA for everything you've done prior to the health profession school, not counting high school. So it would be community college courses, courses at UCI, courses at other 4-year institutions as well. Another GPA you'll hear often referred to is the science GPA. It's also known as BCPM. That's an easy one to remember because it's bio, chem, physics, and math. So any course that falls under one of those 4 departments gets calculated into the science GPA. So that's often a question too for students who are, say, doing research in chem or research in bio. Yes, those units and grades do count into the GPA calculation, not only cumulatively, but for the sciences. And then where they ask for the science GPA, then they'll ask for the all other GPA. So as the name kind of indicates, it's basically everything that doesn't fit in the science GPA. It's everything else. Okay. And then slight difference on the science GPA, you may see BCP, biochem and physics. Most often this is seen with dental schools who do not count the math as part of their science GPA. Okay. All right. So, what is next for us? Now that you have a basic understanding of course requirements and GPA, we'll wrap up this topic and transition to discussing more of what will make you a competitive candidate for health profession programs. Thanks so much for your time today, and hopefully, we'll see you in the next video.